There wasn't anything on last night. The Shining. Girl, that's why I had it on cartoons all night while I scrolled. Get up. The Last Dance. Okay. What's actually happening is, oh, I almost forgot all my food in the refrigerator. Don't mind that. Breakfast. Got a waffle and some eggs and sausage. They didn't have no motherfucking bacon. I was looking for the bacon. They usually have a really good breakfast bar. And so I went down there early because I'm getting ready to leave in 20 minutes. Got to get on the road so I can make it home in time. I was gonna just put breakfast in my little bowl over here and hit the road, but it smells good and I want it now and I have some time. I'm early, so let's do breakfast now, and what I don't eat I'll put in my little bowl. How did I sleep? I slept pretty well. I mean, I won't say well. I slept okay. I think because I had a nap earlier yesterday and I had that Junie last night. I was kind of up, like I was tired, but I was up. So I didn't get a deep sleep. Took me a little while longer. But it was okay. I was comfortable. It is packed in this hotel today, or this weekend. Maybe I shouldn't do that. I just want it moved. Why is it right in front of the mirror? Okay. Well, clean and slim on TV. I didn't get any salt and pepper. But you know, after I had a shower last night, a hot shower, I started relaxing even more. It felt good. And I climbed into bed again. Googled a little bit. Googled a little bit. Then I was like, all right, it's time. And I think that was like a little after 10 or so. I wonder what kind of business people travel like this all the time. That place was crawling with business people. Breakfast, coffee, and then hitting the flight. What do they do? Part of me not being able to sleep, I think, is that, you know, after the retrieval, we all have to wait and see what happens with the egg and the embryo, right? So after the retrieval, immediately they go and fertilize the egg. And then they have to wait, right? I have to wait until the next day. And I get the first report today about how it did overnight, whether it survived, whether it fertilized. And then I get another report. On the third day. So I'm also kind of like trying not to be nervous about this first night and the report that I'm going to get at some point today. What's my dad doing up so early? I wonder why people hated Queen and Slim so much. When we saw it in the theater, I think we cried. But come to find out afterwards, people really hated that movie. I don't see why. I've seen worse. Did she shoot him? He did. That was the movie. Okay. Cop shot her. He shot the cop by accident, but still, now they're on the run. 'Cause and they both die at the end. Hell no, not okay. All right, let me eat and get ready. I gotta go. 15 minutes now. All right, it's time to go home. Let's get on the road. Look at Callie being all gloomy and wet and want to be rainy, but it's not because it's actually the beach. I love this weather. What's that? What is that? Why would they hang their clothes in the window like that? That's weird. Because it ain't no sun, so what's that supposed to do? That's weird. Okay, let's go. Everybody's up and traveling with their like Mercedes and shit. That's a nice car. What kind of car is that? Anyways, let me go. Okay, bye. Let's get on the road.
About the Bracero program. Not you asking people to come over here to work. To replace.
Yeah, man.
Hi there.
Been so long.
It's been a while, yes. I'm also well, but I am extremely tired. So the fact that I got a compliment looking and like how I feel is, I feel like I'm still doing good, so thank you. Past 30 days. I just got in a few hours ago from Cali. I don't know. I guess I've completed the first half of my cycle. And so I had my procedure yesterday and I stayed the night and tried to get as much rest as possible. And I felt good the entire time, but as soon as I got home, I crashed. So I'm so tired, but I'm glad to be home and not on the road. It's been like appointments every week, sometimes twice a week. So back on that whole grind again, which was such an adjustment. Man, I was like, girl, are you sure you want to do this again? Like, what is wrong with you? But things went through. Excuse me, my allergies are also acting up. This time around, seems like so much quicker. Whereas before, each half has taken me like 3 to 4 months just to get to a point. This has only taken, and I say only, but in comparison, like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I feel like, considering I've done very well with not only feeling all of the changes, which I struggle with, but kind of quickly processing through them and what am I trying to say? Not getting over it, not just like being submissive to the changes, but just like processing through it and really honing in on the reason that I feel unsettled about this change or this nuance. And it's like, okay. And just like I do when I'm feeling overwhelmed on a daily, it's like, is there really something wrong here? Is there a problem? If not, then all of this extra energy that's not making you feel well is for nothing. So let's figure out like actually what your issue is and work through that. And I've done a lot of that over the past several weeks. And I have given myself a lot of like grace for feeling the things that I'm feeling. And that has helped me to move past that point. For instance, I went into this saying, you know what? My goal is to, and also, I struggle with goals as it is. I'm not a goal setter, which if you ask society, it'll tell you that that's the problem, that you don't have any short-term or long-term goals. And it's not like I don't have any ambition. It's just, I feel like things change so very quickly. It's pointless for me to have a goal. Like I have a direction, but to say I want to achieve X, Y, and Z, it's very rare that I have a very defined thing that I'm trying to get to. So it frustrates me when I have to sit down and be forced to pick out X, Y, and Z that I want to do. It's like, okay, I'll throw some stuff up, and if it happens, great. If it doesn't, okay. But this time around, I feel like I set a goal that kind of in hindsight feels, I won't say pointless, because it helped me to get through it. I'll just say that I wanted to retrieve multiple eggs. I wanted to retrieve 2 eggs because that's not something that I had ever done before. And I wanted to level up my chances for the part 2 of the fertilization, and let's see what embryo, because I said, okay, well, I've never done any testing or anything like that because it just didn't seem relevant for me. And it's like, okay, if I only get 1 egg and I have it tested and they say it's bad, then I'm met with a whole new set of problems that I don't necessarily want to make decisions on. You can discard it, or you can transfer it knowing that it's not a good one. And if you do that, this set of things could happen. And if you do this, then that's going to weigh on you. Or it could be that you can keep it, but you have to kind of maintain it and manage the cost of keeping it, and then you'd have to transfer it to another clinic because my clinic might not transfer it knowing what they know about it, versus just transferring blind without the testing, what they don't know. So I'm like, well, if I can get multiple, then I will do a test on 1. And if it comes back no bueno, then I will blindly test the one that's untested. That would have been a plan. Did any of that happen? No. I set a goal because I'm like, you know what, I've never done this before. Let's see what my body can do after a 1.5 years of rest and a 1.5 years of me doing whatever I did. Let's see what I can do. And I started off my first appointment with 3. And I was like, okay.
Eggs?
3 follicles.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I'll take that. That was appointment 1. By appointment 2, I was down to 1 because 2 had disappeared. And that happens because when they come and go like that, they're not healthy. They're not viable. So it's like, all right, I'd rather you go now than let's go through all of this whole thing and the follicle ends up empty or non-viable, or like, okay. But then this one that remained, it remained for 5 weeks. It remained, but it did not grow. Which they said, okay, that's fine, that's normal. Let's just, and again, this is natural IVF, so Whereas maybe in standard IVF, they would start injecting you immediately with all these hormones to make them come up and to make them grow and to make them control them to what they want to do. That's standard. But for someone like me that is already full of those hormones, adding more isn't going to do anything. So the goal in the first half of my cycle is to give me pills to decrease my hormones so that we can slowly let my body release the hormones to grow said follicle. So that was the first 5 weeks with this one egg. And I'm like, okay, it's still there. That's got to mean something. That it's strong, but it's just asleep. Fine. In the meantime, let's work on getting everything else regulated, which happened much quicker than my past, to the point where they're like, your hormones are looking excellent. They're great. They're doing so good. Come back. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
So then at the same time, I also developed for the first time a large cyst on the other ovary, which I thought was going to be a huge threat because cysts can be hormonal and they can throw off the whole thing and they can take away from the other follicles, etc., cause pain, blah, blah, blah. I've had this cyst the entire time, but it did not affect anything. And to the point where they didn't want to try to remove it. They didn't cancel my cycle. It's just like, all right, it's there. We'll monitor it, but great for it. Once my hormones got to where the doctor was like satisfied with them, then they gave me one injection to slowly try and get that one to grow. And I was on that for like a few days, and then I went back for a check-in and no results. That follicle was still there, but it had not grown. But surprisingly, another dormant follicle not only popped up, but grew tremendously. And while everything around me was saying, this is great news, this is so exciting, this is amazing, I was disappointed. I was really disappointed because I'm someone that likes order and like a plan. I aside from the goals, I do like things to kind of have a blueprint. And you can really have an attachment to an idea. I really quickly grew attached to this one little follicle that I wanted to wake up so badly, and the one that stayed and survived, right? That the fact that it didn't do anything, and it like brought up a lot of competitiveness with myself, and I'm like, what are you doing? You let this other thing come up and take all the medication, and you're just, so I'm like, girl, what? And I went through that for a couple of days, and I'm like, let me just sort this out. Let me just sort it out. What is the goal at this point, right? Do you want a viable follicle or not? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
So I got over it, but it just made me think about these like little silent things that can like sneak in during this process. And I imagine like with everything else, but this process really, like, I get those shards of thoughts that are so pronounced and catch me off guard, and I'm like, wow, okay. I allowed myself to feel kind of disappointed in the one that I wanted, because just like anything else, like I wanted you. I want this other one too. And it's like, if something is going to surprise and be an addition, like in addition to the process, I wanted it to be an addition to you.
Right.
That's fine. Turn our focus over to this one follicle, and then I go into, okay, this one came out of nowhere and it's growing really quickly. I have a history of breaking through medication
and ovulating early, and I've lost plenty of follicles because my hormones can literally be fine one day, and then 12 hours later they spike and things go awry and I lose it. So please go back in my notes and just remember that. They're like, okay, I'll talk to the doctor and we'll see how it goes. No call. So I'm like, okay. I'm feeling signs of like ovulation is coming, and I'm like, I know what they're gonna say. If it happens in between appointments, they're just gonna say there's nothing we can do. Just come to your next appointment. There's nothing that we can do if you, like, it is what it is. So I'm like, all right, let me just relax. And that didn't happen. I took some more of that stimulating medication, and the cyst was getting smaller, the follicle was getting bigger to the point of maturity, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do a retrieval, so come back. And not only that little one was still there, the big one that had popped up was ready, and then another smaller one had popped up, and I'm like, huh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
While I did not necessarily retrieve multiple eggs, this cycle has been the most that my body has produced. So altogether, the ones that have come up and went away and didn't grow, I've had 5. That's the most that I've ever had in a cycle. So I'm like, damn, okay, that's pretty good. My body's, you know, doing what it's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that this particular follicle is on one of my ovaries that has the most damage from the endometriosis. And because of that, it is also positioned in a really inconvenient place. My last retrieval that I had, afterwards, I kind of laid there and was like, and this is after, like, I've done retrievals several times, but this last one was like, I never want to do this again. This was so painful. I never want to do this again. Like, what just happened? That kind of like physical shock and pain. And it was because I retrieved on that one side, and the doctor had to go through my uterus to get to the ovary, which was excruciating. And it was one of those things that I didn't know what was happening. I don't know if he knew what was happening, but a decision had to be made in that moment, because I only had one, and we can just all tough it out and get through it and get the goal, or we can let all of this go down the drain and we lose the follicle.
Right.
Nonetheless, that was still a really traumatic experience, right? To the point where you're not only kind of like strapped down. I always choose, and I always choose not to have anesthesia. And to have a surprise going through another part to get to a part was shocking, and you have to keep still, and the nurses, you know, are having to like gently hold me down, right?
Yeah.
So me knowing this, that sent me to a place leading up to the retrieval, because I'm like, okay, I know what this pain feels like. My memories of it are like flooding to me right now. What do I want to do? Do I want to pay thousands of dollars for anesthesia for this one egg? What do I want to do? It was even more painful than I had another procedure where they took my plasma and sort of injected my ovaries to kind of jumpstart them, to kind of give them, like, I don't know, wake them up, if you will. And I didn't have anesthesia for that. And that was only painful afterwards because things were kicking in, and And I'm like, okay, how did I get through that procedure, which is so much more invasive, if you will, than this? And I remembered, yeah, because it's multiple injections, and rather than them aspirating for the follicle, they're filling them with your plasma. So it very much feels like fire kind of going up your sides. But I remembered this other doctor, she asked me, okay, well, do you want the anesthesia or what have you? And I'm like, well, how does this compare to a retrieval? And she's like, it's kind of the same, maybe a little bit more uncomfortable. I'm like, up until then, I could do a retrieval, no problem, just Tylenol. So I was like, I'm not going to do the anesthesia. I'll just do the Tylenol. She was like, okay, cool. But I'm also going to prescribe you Valium and an antibiotic for afterwards. So I was like, okay, cool. And that, I mean, again, the pain didn't happen until after I'm standing up and moving around, but I got through it. So I was like, you know what? Let me just call this and see if they'll give me that, because they've never offered it to me. It's always like, do you want anesthesia or not? And it's like, no. So I'm like, let me just try it, because if I can calm my mind about what may or may not happen, it could be different. My body is different. I was doing retrievals and procedures back to back, so I feel like my insides were already inflamed by that last time and just over it. Let's just see. But if I can win half the battle mentally and emotionally, then maybe I can just get through it for the one egg. So let me ask. Called the girl, and she said, oh yeah, I can do that for you. And I'm like, we'll send it right over quickly, please, because it's tomorrow and I just need one. Okay. And so she sent the prescription. I went and picked it up, and for some reason I could not find my notes or my emails from that procedure that I had a couple years ago that had the instructions on when to take X, Y, and Z, because I also get really nervous about trying to do things myself on certain medications. So I'm like trying to look up, can I take this and what time? And because they didn't send it to me, I asked for something and they're like, here. So I decided that I would take my Tylenol 90 minutes before my procedure, which is always on time. And then I would take the Valium 30 minutes before. And then it'll, theoretically I could get through it and be quick. And everything will have kicked in by then. So the lady that prescribed it to me, she's like, well, are you gonna have a ride? And I was like, I'm coming alone. And she's like, well, you can't drive. So if it was almost like, I'm not gonna hit the button on this until you tell me that I'm gonna, you're gonna have a ride. And I'm like, okay, I'll just get an Uber or something. I had already planned to get a room, because I'm like, either this is going to be so painful that I'm not gonna, like, emotionally and physically, I'm not gonna want to just jump back on the road like I do and come home. I just need to rest, or not. But either way, I'll have that option. So I was like, no, I'll just call an Uber or something. So then I went into this whole thing of like, I'm not calling an Uber. Nobody's gonna be with me. Let me get a room at my typical hotel that I stay at that has a shuttle. Specifically because there's like a partnership with the doctor, and they will get me to my appointment and back. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I made it just in time, because my appointment is like 10:15 in the morning. They wanted me 30 minutes early. And so I left here at like 3 a.m. to go straight to my hotel. Then I'm like, wait, check-in isn't until 3 p.m. So I'm gonna have to get there and beg them to, like, hey, I have a reservation, but please, can you just take me to my appointment right now? I pull up at the hotel at 9:05. I'm pleading my case. And she's like, well, yeah. And she looks at her long list of people. It's busy. Well, we're not going to have a shuttle until 9:30. And I'm like, will that be okay? And I'm like, if that's the best that you can do, it has to be. And she's like, well, he's going to take a bunch of people to the airport right now. Maybe you can just jump in and he can swing around. I'm like, that would be great. Did that. He drops me off on time. I get there on time. I'm able to pop all my pills on time. And as soon as I sit down, I just feel like calm, like it kicked in. And I just found myself sitting there smiling like a weirdo. I'm like, oh, this is good. This is nice. This is gonna be all right. But you know, went back there. Like I said, the procedures are on time because the medication the night or the couple nights before triggers things to happen, and they have to do it in a certain amount of time. Another fear that I had was that they told me my doctor would not be the one to do my retrieval, which I hate because the other doctor that fills in, he is really, really rough. And there's something about him, I don't like him. So I was already in my head also about like, my doctor's not going to be there. It's going to be the other person, and this is going to suck. But by then I had already talked myself like, you know what? It's going to be quick. He's just here to do the job, and he's going to do the job because that is his job. And you're going to be in and out in no time. My doctor showed up. I said, man, you were supposed to be off today. What are you doing here? He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, great. Can we do what we do? He was so quick. He did not go through my uterus. Did he push all of my organs into my chest? Yes. But I would rather that. And I understood what he had to do to get to the goal. He got it. I think he took care of the cyst and everything. And I was like, okay. Do you want to see your egg? And I was like, sure. He's like, look over there. So I'm looking, and I've seen these before. It's the same thing. They show you the egg and they show you everything. This one looked really different, and I can't explain it, and I wish I had pictures of the other ones to compare it to, but this one looked really different. It was very clear. It was almost like somebody drew it. It was perfectly round. It was like nothing around it. And I'm like, wow, it's like high definition. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And that was it. You go back to the waiting area, you get a hot pad, you get your vitals taken again, and this is in an area where there are other women waiting for their procedures also, which I hate, but that's the common thing. Everywhere you go, you're with everybody else. You can't see them, but you can hear their situations, which is also the worst. I've heard some things that were just crazy, made me very grateful, even this time. I heard them say something about a woman who this is her second egg retrieval where they have gotten nothing. And I'm like, how incredibly devastating, which just because you have a follicle doesn't mean that there's something in it. And so for her to keep coming up with nothing is just like, wow. And so, you know, not to, I don't know, not that I don't feel for these other women that have, you know, circumstances as well. It's just sometimes I don't want to hear that. It's just not to say that everything needs to be helpful, but I also, like, it does something to your spirit, right?
Yes.
So I've heard it all. I've heard screams and agony from women who have had several eggs, and I'm like, what a crazy situation to be in where you've got like 15, 20 eggs, but you are screaming in agony because it hurts so bad, but you have so many. What a crazy problem to have that you got 8 really good eggs and it costs $1,000 to test each one of them. Like, so how many do you want to test? All of them? Some of them? You know? Or just like, okay, this is your second time and I know what it takes to get up. Okay. Uh-oh. We got news. Sorry, you weren't watching when I got the notification, so you can probably already tell by the way that I'm smiling that it's good news. I got my day 1 status of my embryo. Good news, we were able to successfully recover an egg from your retrieval. We will continue to grow the egg and we'll do our best to help it become a viable day 3 embryo for transfer. A detailed 2-page report has been uploaded to your patient portal. Please open it and review your culture plan to ensure that it is correct. The current plan is to grow the embryo to the day 3 stage and freeze it for a future transfer without PGT testing. If this is incorrect, please let us know right away through email and phone call. Your next report will come once the embryo has completed culture, usually around day 3 or 4. We can imagine it is very difficult, but until then, please sit tight. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out via patient portal or email. Yay! The little embryo survived, or the egg survived the night. Well, I won't call it it's been fertilized. It was fertilized yesterday, so little embryo survived the night. Yay! All right, let's look at the report. Why is that won't go away? Okay, let's look at the report. I mean, there's nothing going to be on the day 1 report. I want to see the day 3 retrieval report. Wait, that's not right. Why did I click on March of 23? 1, 2, 3. This is my 4th embryo. Ugh, come on, phone. Why is it acting up right now? It's 4 o'clock. Come on, phone. I clicked on the wrong one. Okay, 6/26. It's not gonna tell me anything. I was cold and then then I got hot. Oh my gosh. No, then don't do that. Leave me alone. Why won't you open up my file? Come on. They must be in my portal right now because the app is acting crazy. Okay, retrieval report. 1 egg. It's on its way to being an embryo. Please use the Word document. I'm about to just get on the computer and do it. It's not that I'm hot, but I got excited and now I'm like sweating. Come on. I'm about to just go on here. Who knew that Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom were together? Okay. Anyways, focus. Okay. Girl, focus. Let's sign in. Because the app is tripping. Baby survived the night. Okay. Lab results. Procedure note. Okay, focus, and then I'll go back and see what that was. Okay. Day 3 for 1 embryo. No PGT. 1 retrieved. It doesn't, what does it say? Stage MII. Day 0, that was yesterday. Insemination. Stage 1, or day 1, unconfirmed. What does that mean? Plan culture. Day 1, stage unconfirmed. Because what? It needs to be a full day, or? Oh, okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. The glossary says unconfirmed. 2 PN, 2 pronuclei unconfirmed. 2 PN were not observed. Eggs will continue to be cultured as normal. Confirmation final report. What does that mean? I don't think I've seen that before. 2 pronuclei were not observed. That doesn't sound good. Let me go see the other ones. Yo. Okay, that one doesn't say that. That one's the one that arrested. Like, it didn't make it. It didn't even make fertilization. But the other one that did make it says fertilized on day 1. 2 pronuclei. 1, 2, 3. This one. What does this one say? Fertilized. This is the first time that it says this. You know, I'm about to Google, because I thought everything was everything. Now it says something different, which is why you always look at the report. 2 pronuclei? What is that? Normally, there are 2 pronuclei, including the paternal pronucleus and the maternal pronucleus in the zygote after fertilization. It is generally accepted that multiple pronuclei formation is due to the abnormal extrusion of the second polar body or to abnormal fertilization with multiple sperm. Abnormal extrusion of the second. I didn't know there was supposed to be multiple polar bodies. I thought it was just one. Or to abnormal fertilization with okay. The presence of 2 pronuclei serves as the initial indication of successful fertilization, often observed around 18 hours after insemination. Oh my God. 2 pronuclei not observed. Day 1 fertilization results. Let's see what they say. After your eggs are retrieved as part of an IVF procedure, they are cultured in the lab for up to 7 days. The embryology team will check in on their growth periodically using a microscope. They look for certain signs that tell them how each embryo is developing. The first day they examine the embryo is on day 1 of fertilization. Day 1 is the day after your egg retrieval. You will likely get a call or update on your patient portal on day 1 informing you how many eggs were fertilized. A normally fertilized embryo on day 1 is said to have 2 PN, 2 pronuclei, and 2 polar bodies. To the average person, this means nothing, but these are great signs for an embryo. Here's what you need to know. before fertilization, egg cells divide through the process of meiosis and go from 46 chromosomes to 23 chromosomes. Then those 23 chromosomes divide again to create an egg cell with DNA that is ready to pair with the DNA of the sperm. The two portions of unused DNA go into tiny cells outside of the egg cell known as the polar bodies. Okay. Pronuclei. When the sperm penetrates the egg, each cell creates a pronucleus or PN. A pronucleus is made up of a membrane that surrounds DNA. There is one pronuclei for the sperm and one for the egg before they join together to combine the sperm and egg DNA. The pronuclei typically become visible between 6 and 20 hours after fertilization occurred. The embryologists usually check for the PN and PB between 17 and 20 hours after fertilization. 20 hours. When the embryologist examines the eggs to see if they have been fertilized, they're looking for 2 polar bodies and 2 pronuclei. The pronuclei are the most important as they are evidence that the sperm has penetrated the egg, and there are 2 sets of DNA present. Okay, here we go. What does it mean if there aren't 2 pronuclei seen? 0 or 1 PN. These embryos shouldn't be counted out right away. Sometimes they will show normal signs of fertilization later in time than the moment when they were examined by the embryologist. Under 2 PN. More than 2 PN. These embryos are not compatible with normal embryonic development. More than 2 PN means that there is too much DNA in the cell. This is often caused by more than one sperm fertilizing the egg. Note, all embryology labs function differently. Clinics may provide updates on different schedules. Make sure to ask your clinic when and how you will be updated regarding embryo development. Okay. Zero or 1 should not be counted out right away. Sometimes they will show normal signs of fertilization later. Okay, because has it been 20 hours? Does it show what time they did it? Let me go back over here. Does it show what? It's got to be like my internet or something that's like giving me grief. Well, it would have been at like, let's say 11. No, let's say 10. 10:45. Unconfirmed. Oh, it gives me more info. Example pictures. 2 pronuclei, 19 hours, day 1. 2 p.m., 34 hours, then they split. 36 hours. Okay, this is what starts the split. These are example stock photos, not your embryos. These are, okay. What an embryo would look like through its development. Let me show you. Girl, I'm sweaty. All right. You see that? Those 2 circles inside the circle, those are the 2 that should be there that they're not seeing. That kicks off the splitting of the cells. Right? And so on and so forth. By day 3, we need to be looking like that. We're on day 1, and my egg and sperm, it doesn't look like that. The 2 circles in the middle are not there. So that's a new problem. I'm not entirely sure what to do with that. That's never happened before. And see, this is what I meant. This is what I meant by I'm not sure about this particular donor, what his cells are going to do, even though he has reported pregnancies. Like, my eggs did very well with the previous donor. They don't know this dude. So, you know, there's a whole thing about compatibility, which I never really understood or looked too much into, because I just thought genetically, like genetic compatibility was, you don't have this, I don't have this, we don't have the same things together, so we're good. But I think there's more to it that has me a little concerned. But again, it's only day 1. Let me be quiet. Maybe things are just taking their sweet time. I still have 2 additional days, and I'm praying that they just need some time. I don't know. Fragmentation. Compacting. Cavity. Early blast. How common is it? That's what I want to know next. How common? I don't want to read anything from 2005. Really? How? 2016, live births resulting from 0PN derived embryos? What? The aim of this study was to investigate the incidence of embryos derived from unfertilized oocytes? Oocytes not displaying pronuclei at the time of the fertilization check, and 2, determine the clinical pregnancy rates when transferring a 0PN derived embryo. How is it an embryo if it's not successfully fertilized? In this retrospective study, what? In total, 11.3% 0PN derived embryos were observed. It was found that female age, number of oocytes, and the top quality embryo rate were significantly correlated with 0PN derived embryo occurrence. The source of embryos transferred did not impact significantly on clinical pregnancy and live birth rates. Of the 183 cycles included in this study, where 275 0PN derived embryos were transferred in total, only 0PN derived embryos were available in 70 of those cycles. It was noteworthy that 13 healthy infants resulted from a 0PN derived embryo with an implantation rate of 17%. How, Sway? What kind of magic science is this? These results indicate that the traditional method of excluding embryos because of those oocytes originally lacking any sign of a pronucleus at the fertilization check should be reconsidered, as transferring 0PN derived embryos with subsequent expected developmental performance may be considered as an option for those patients where no other embryos are available. How? Aren't they supposed to split cells? That doesn't make any sense. This is a .gov article though. Okay, hold on. Because now I'm excited now. Blah, blah, blah. ICSI treatment cycles, a fertilization check is performed at 17 to 20 hour post-insemination to exclude oocytes that have fertilized abnormally or not fertilized at all. Normal fertilization of an oocyte is defined by observing 2 distinct pronuclei and 2 polar bodies after insemination. Oocytes showing no pronucleus, or 1 pronucleus, or 3 pronuclei or more are deemed as having fertilized abnormally and may be discarded. However, this assumption may not always be accurate. on the one hand, cytogenic analysis has revealed that a proportion of diploid embryos can develop from 1PN zygotes. Healthy babies developing from such embryos have been reported. On the other hand, 2PN zygotes are not necessarily euploid. Truth. Furthermore, there are reports of 0PN derived embryos present in 12 to 20% of day 3 embryos, which result in healthy babies. Although to transfer such embryos in the absence of the signs of normal fertilization may have become an option in clinical policy, it is still a dilemma for the clinical team when it comes to carrying this out in practice. In this study, fertilization results from conventional IVF were reviewed to investigate the incidence. Wow. Drama. Look at this. Here's another bit of information, right? Okay, so my camera died. A 0PN usually means that fertilization was missed. Normal fertilization is a 2PN. So what about a 0PN? What if you don't see any pronuclei? This might mean that the egg is unfertilized. However, it's possible that the pronuclei haven't formed yet or have already fused. It takes time for the pronuclei to form, and after they form, they disappear. According to Nagy et al. 1998, most eggs show pronuclei after about 8 to 20 hours for ICSI and 12 to 22 hours for IVF. 18 hours for both ICSI and IVF are often referenced. IVF takes a bit longer because the sperm has to physically enter the egg compared to ICSI, where it's injected right in there. So there's this window where you're able to see the pronuclei, and if you miss it because you're too early or late, you won't know if the egg is fertilized or not. Since you can't rewind the clock at this point, the only real way to tell is if there's cell division. Many clinics will hold the unfertilized eggs or watch them for cell division just to be sure. So how often are 0PN zygotes actually fertilized? A review of studies by Capalbo et al. 2024 showed that zygotes with 0PN fertilization have a 95.1% chance of being diploid, a 3.7% chance of being haploid, and a 1.2% chance of being polyploid. In other words, around Okay, I just got the notification that I have a message in my portal about my embryo. So we are going to look at the results. I'm like, my heart. As soon as I said, this is taking way too long, here comes the notification. Oh my God, please, 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 please. I'm so scared. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. Hello?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Miss.
Yes, yes.
Oh, hey. How are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking. So I'm sure you've had experience with us long enough to know why we're calling, right?
Yes. I saw in
Yeah,
my
just
portal.
looking at. Yeah. So I'm sure you're disappointed. Do you have any questions I can address for you?
Yeah, I feel like this is the first time that I've not had an egg fertilized before, so this is new territory for me. I want to understand if this is another case of poor egg quality on my part, or is this a sperm issue?
Okay. So, because you've had fertilization before, it's unlikely to be a sperm issue. Obviously, all they can do is look at the morphological, aspects of the sperm and say, hey, this is the best looking one, this moves the best, the tail is twirling well, and the shape looks the best. And so because there's human selection of the sperm to do the fertilization, they are picking the best at the bunch for you. But just because we can see physically that it looks good doesn't mean it'll do its job, because once sperm enters, there's got to be a reaction that needs to go on, and there's some hormones that need to be released for everything to come together. That's the part that no one can tell by just looking. But again, if you've had successful fertilization, then there's no reason to suspect that it's going to suddenly fail on you. Now,
The
egg
reason-
quality sometimes...
Sure.
Yeah, go
The
ahead.
reason why I bring this up is because there's been a change. So in my past cycles, I've used one particular donor. This donor that I've used is the first time that I've used him, and now I have this new result. So
Right.
I wasn't sure if the donor had anything to do with it, because like I said, this is
Yeah.
the first time.
Right. I get that.
Okay.
I get it. But I will tell you, I think with sperm banks, you're using extremely well-vetted donors that really tend to have some of the best quality before they're even allowed to be a donor.
Sure.
However, there are things such as some immune reactions that we can't 100% explain. Right? There are just times where my body is going to reject and not like this particular sperm, and that can happen. But you would never suspect that, because
Okay.
it's not common based on just one cycle.
Okay.
I think if you see completely different results over 3 cycles, I would think, I know that's a lot of time
Sure.
and money, but ultimately I think one is not a case. Actually, if you've been getting good fertilization results, then it's kudos to you, because actually fertilization rate is not meant to be 100% at all. It is typically around a 75% rate
I see.
overall. Yeah. So I think at some point you're going to come across that,
Okay.
and especially when the denominator is low.
Okay.
Okay, so try not to be disappointed, but just keep it going, and I think you probably will get better results with the same sperm lot over time.
Okay. So
Okay.
this cycle so far, I've had several cycles, and this one seemed to go along a little bit quicker than I was used to. So I'm not sure, is the opinion to kind of keep going, because this is only the first cycle that I've had in a while, to keep going, or I don't know if things are
Yeah.
looking worse for me.
Can you explain what you mean by it went faster?
I feel like between baseline appointment to retrieval seems like a shorter time than in my past. I'm not sure if I'm making that up, or if maybe the 1.5 year break that I had just made it feel much easier, but
I see. Let me look at the task and see what you did in 23. 1 second. No, actually, your cycles were a lot shorter. This one actually took to the one in May, right? It started in May and then finally retrieved in June, mid-June. This took all the way until day 28 and past to do the retrieval, whereas your very last one in September 23 was an 18-day cycle.
wow, okay.
Yeah. So you're doing okay, but I
Okay.
think over time, as the AMH continues to dwindle, you'll see that it takes a lot more work to kind of baby a follicle along. And
Okay.
in fact, when they're longer, it is an age-related thing. So you do not want to take too many breaks.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay. Hang in there.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. Have a good one.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. So I guess I didn't ask what next. Like, do I call at my next period? Okay. 1, do an egg retrieval cycle next month to retrieve more eggs, or 2, take 1 cycle break before entering your embryo transfer cycle. Okay, so please take 1 cycle break if PGTA results are pending on your cycle day 1. Do not enter your transfer cycle without having viable normal embryos. How can you do that anyways? Take 1 to 2 cycles off. Must take 1 cycle off before transfer cycle if PGTA. Okay. Call the office on cycle day 1 if you want to schedule baseline monitoring for entering the cycle. Egg retrieval cycle day 2 through 5. ERA cycle day 3 through 5. What's ERA? Embryo transfer cycle. What's ERA? Please make sure to complete pre-FET requirements before entering a transfer cycle. Okay, so I guess I just start the fuck over. 25, today's only 3 days later, so I have... God. It's been 3 days. I have 7 more days to be on medication. Fine. Where the hell was my doctor? He didn't even call me. All right, whatever.